Hello. Happy
What's up?
Friday. Welcome
Happy
back
Friday.
to
Welcome
Operation
back.
Hustle.
So today we're going to be talking about letting go of shame and guilt.
Shame.
And I
Guilt.
wanted to talk about
Shame.
this because, all of us training people, you release dopamine, serotonin, and sometimes people share some pretty heavy stuff with us. And I think sometimes it's important for us to share back and talk about things, that we carry with us, shame, guilt wise, so that people don't feel as alone, because I do believe that there's power in transparency and there's power in sharing. And it's unfortunate that we all wear this badge of shame and guilt about something. And it's almost like we hold on to this badge like it's an honor to hold on to it. It's an honor to hold in this pain and not share it. Although there's many of our brothers and sisters that are among us that are also in the same pain that could actually benefit from hearing our story, whether it's their story or whether they can relate to it.
Yeah.
And so I think that it's important for us to talk about some things that, are heavy on our hearts. And it feels very spirit-led to share these things. But I just knew it was time to finally share it because I've been hearing a lot of similar stories. And I think it's time. So Justin or Alejandro, do you want to start us off?
Justin.
I guess I'm up here.
Don't let the
All right.
crickets
So when it comes to shame, guilt, I have a few things I'm a little bit shameful about. I don't talk about them too often. I used to, before I was a businessman, doing things that I shouldn't have been doing illegally, drug dealing. So I did that for quite a while. And that's what I would call the easy path, would be the quick, easy money. I was comfortable. I was making a lot of money, but doing bad things. So great, not good. Felt shameful of it. I know we talked about a couple podcasts ago with Scott about the mushrooms. So as I was that person, that dealer, I have done mushrooms a few times. And every time I did them, I literally would critique myself, tell myself, why are you doing this? Felt guilty about what I was doing. Felt like I had so much more potential than what I actually was doing because I knew it was bad. And I believe, honestly, those trips helped a lot with molding what I really wanted to do and making a change for the better. Because at the end of the day, I knew I wanted more, and I knew I could give more to others other than just providing them with drugs. So long story short, I actually had my karma hit me. And I know I told Ali this story once. I don't know if Abby even ever heard this, but I was, my boys, we used to go out all the time. I used to drink, do a bunch of stupid shit. And we were going to go out one night, and I decided to stay home, and my homies went to the club, and two dudes ran up in my house and tried to rob me. And I didn't know I was getting robbed. I thought it was the homies because I was sleeping. I woke up.
I think I do remember you telling me this.
Yeah, people were in my room, and I was like, what the fuck are you doing in my room, dude? Get out of here. So I call my buddy. I'm like, dude, why did you guys just come in my room? He's like, I'm not home right now. I was like, oh. So I grabbed the daddy duty.
Yeah.
The gun. Started running around the house like a psychopath. And I think that was the day that I actually changed my path, was that day. Because before that, I never really got in trouble with it. I was making a lot of money. I wasn't really paying the karma, basically, as I would say it. And that really put me on the path of all right, I need to make a change now, or shit will get worse and I will probably end up in jail. So here I am now releasing the story. I know I never really told anyone. So anyone that really knows me knows about this, but this is the first time I'm really talking about
Sorry,
it.
Mom. Sorry, Dad.
Yeah. I mean, you guys knew what I was doing most likely. Not that you supported it.
They know now. But
I did quit a job for an entire year, and I was doing this for a year straight with that was the only thing I was doing. I was hyper focused on it. I made a lot of money, but yeah, it wasn't good. Felt bad about it. I didn't feel good about what I was doing. I wasn't proud to tell my parents about it because it's not a real career.
right?
Yo, hey guys, I made all this money, and you want to know how I made it? I bet you don't.
Well,
So,
here's the thing.
but I still feel shame about it. But now that I'm past that point in my life,
Absolutely.
I feel a lot better like releasing the information. And maybe someone's in this boat right now that you may
Absolutely.
feel bad about what you're doing. And it doesn't have to be a legal activity. But my dumbass decided that was the route I wanted to take. Luckily, I didn't end up in jail or dead. So good news is I have a story to tell.
Well, the good news is that God used you, you
Yeah.
know, and I think that's what's important.
sure.
Here, I'm going to take this one out because it's falling out. God used you for a bigger, better story. And I think sometimes we don't even realize that, but we feel this like overwhelming feeling to share sometimes. And I was feeling that. And I said to him, you know, God has really used you and really changed you for the better. And to think that I'm even married to a man that used to do that when that's what actually took my mother's life, that's how I know I was meant to be a part of his story. That, hey, I've been on both sides. You know, my mother
Yeah.
passed away from a fentanyl overdose. That could have been Justin that dealt that fentanyl,
Yeah.
you know, and although
For
he
sure.
wasn't dealing those drugs, that's sometimes what that leads to is harder drugs,
Yeah.
you know, when you're selling.
Well, it
sell
would have led
weed,
to that for sure. It would have
right.
led to like harder drugs, more money.
Easier sales,
More
cheaper
problems.
drugs, right?
Yeah.
It just, you know, you're always trying to make more money, more profit. But God uses people for these stories so that we may share them. And, you know, whether you believe it's God or a higher power or something within you that feels like you want to help others, sometimes it's the shame and guilt that we
Yeah.
hold about something we did. And sometimes it's a shame and guilt that we hold about something that was done to us. And
For sure.
just bear with me because this is a pretty hard story to share, but
You got this, Adam. You'll be fine. You've been through
maybe
a lot.
Ollie wants to go first.
You'll make it.
I don't know.
Yeah, bro.
what
Go,
am I-
dude. Tell me. Tell me
I
your
mean,
Give me a minute.
tell me your guilt,
Yeah,
sir.
no, I'll just touch base on like, you know, the simple things that are part of everyday life, you know.
Yeah.
You know, there are simple guilts that everyone comes to terms with every day, and that's pretty much at the root cause of like a lot of guilt that I have personally. It comes down to what am I doing that I know isn't, you know, the best for me,
Yeah.
but short term is like a behavior that's somehow comforting.
Yeah.
And you know, I waste a lot of time doing stupid shit. Whereas
we all
like,
do,
yeah.
unfortunately.
So it's like a daily guilt thing for me more so like you know, where I'll feel guilty about wasting time doing something that, you know, in the moment makes me feel good and makes me like, you know, just separate and detach from whatever I'm really stressed about, which is
Yeah.
pretty much just like my perception of potential. And so it comes down to pretty much trying to limit the amount of time that I waste as
Yeah.
far as, you know, what I could be doing as opposed to what I am doing. That's what makes me feel
For sure.
guilty most days.
I think a lot of us feel that way. Like even somebody was telling me, I think it was this morning or yesterday, that they were feeling like bad about watching TV. And I said, listen, you know, there's going to be days where we have to just know our bodies and be aware of our bodies, that when our bodies are telling us you need to relax, and whether it be that, you know, TV is mindless for you and that makes you feel good, or video games, or whether it be that you sit in a park for a whole day and you're like, man, I did nothing but sit in this park. But sometimes that's our bodies telling us, you know, we need to just let go of those daily stressors for that whatever time it is that our body feels like it, right? But then it comes to an unhealthy place. So it's just knowing that balance. But like I feel that way sometimes where I'm just like, you know, I've watched TV for 3 hours and I'm like, but what else did I do? You know, did I get up today? Did I take care of my
Yeah.
dog? Did I, you know, make sure that I had food? You know, was I hygienic today? Did I brush my teeth? Did I wash my face? Did I do the things that, you know, were required of me? And what's the rest of my week look like? Was the rest of my week very productive? Then I've earned this time. And if I feel like I need it, then I need to take it, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just reevaluating that and just telling yourself it's okay sometimes to be not productive,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And-
Everybody
and-
needs a rest sometimes.
Right. And it's easy to
Yeah.
get when in the chaos, right? When you just feel like you're productive and you're doing things, you're always busy, you're running from one thing to the next thing, which I feel we do often, you know, that when you take that little bit of rest that you don't deserve it, or you feel guilty about it, or what am I doing? I should be doing something better. Like, but really, should you? Because sometimes we really can't do better unless we do take that time to just disconnect and, you know, de-stress and be aware of what our mind needs and what our body needs also,
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
know? And I think
Yeah.
that's important.
For sure. I feel guilty if I miss a workout. You know what I'm saying?
That too, you know, I'll feel guilty and be like, oh,
For
I
sure.
definitely could have done more. And,
Yeah.
you know, I didn't really push myself this workout. But even in those feelings, right? Like, let's say this is regards to working out. Like, if you did get that workout, but it's not as hard as you wanted to go, like, hey, you actually moved. You did it.
Yeah.
And that's
At
not to
least
say
you did
that
it. At least
every
you did it.
workout should be like that and you should never
Yeah.
push yourself. But when you're having a day like that and you at least continue through the workout, no matter how, demotivated you're feeling, like, hey, that's what's important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you can have shame and guilt about a lot of things.
Yeah,
And
different
like
things.
I was saying, like the daily, like you can feel shameful on the daily. You can feel guilt on the daily. Don't dwell on it. Don't let it override your mind. But I think it's a good and a bad thing. I think it's good to have it. So, you need to make a change.
When it comes to productivity, I think it's a good thing as far as the guilt goes, because the guilt can somewhat be a motivator. Like that's what kind of like helps you be like, okay, it's been enough time. You feel rejuvenated,
Yeah.
but I don't need to feel guilty after 10 hours of sitting and watching TV or 8 hours of sitting and watch TV. Or again, if you've had a month where it's a crazy freaking month and you're sitting down having a Netflix binge and that's what you want to do with your free time, that's what you need to release. And that's okay. But like the guilt is, I think, what helps us stay on that path rather than going, crossing off the path of the straight and narrow. But the guilt is what keeps us going. The guilt is what keeps us productive. It's just not allowing the guilt to be unhealthy, I think, is where, the goal of all that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, when I was 7 years old, I was abused by a woman babysitter. And it was something that I held guilt in and shame for a very long time. And I just came out about it probably 2 years ago. After my parents died, it was like a memory that I repressed for a very long time. And it was really, really hard because it flooded back and I remembered it. And luckily, I have a family and an adopted family and a husband who's very supportive and very loving and forgiving and never looked at me once different.
Yeah.
And so I was able to share that in a very safe space. And I think it's time now to share it with other people because there's so many other people going through this. And I think there's just not enough people talking about it.
Yeah. There's a lot of abuse out there. There's a lot of sexual abuse. There's a lot of it that's swept under the rug. And I think it does need to be talked about. It sucks talking about it, especially if it happened to you. I've never been sexually abused, but I'm sure it is not fun for anyone.
No, and it makes you feel like you've done something wrong and that you should be shameful about it.
Yeah.
And so it took me a very long time, and even just telling my siblings before I talked about this on here and told the world, I felt like I wanted to throw up because I just didn't want them to look at me differently.
Yeah. Well, I don't think they're going to look at you differently. And people may look at me differently if they don't know what I really did. But people judge. What are you going to do? At the end of the day, everybody has their own shame. Everybody has their own problems. Everyone has guilt about something. And I think this will hopefully be helpful for the viewers. Maybe bring up something they're guilty about currently and they're willing to make the change and move forward and, maybe open up about it to someone because everybody has a story.
Absolutely. And I feel like I've had a lot of people, indicating at the same story. And so I was like, I think it's finally time for me to tell. And you just feel this overwhelming feeling in your heart where, at least for me, spirit led, I feel like God's like, you need to tell this, you need to tell this.
Yeah.
Because I do hold, and that's just one of my stories, I do hold a lot of my pain in, and I wear this badge, and I feel like this badge makes me feel like, I'm a warrior, but really it's not helping anyone by holding it in. And what is life really all about? What is our purpose really all about?
Right.
It's about sharing these tough things that we don't want to share.
Yeah. It will definitely, it should help someone. And if it doesn't, well, we try. But if someone hears this and they are willing to make the change, that's awesome. I'm glad we talked about it. It feels good to talk about it too. I'm live on fucking Facebook in front of millions of people. If you're watching,
I feel good to let it out. I feel good to let it go because at the end of the day, that's a part of my story. That's a part of who I am. That's what's made me, strong. And obviously God was using me for this one moment.
Well, and you overcame it and you're a successful businesswoman.
Yeah.
So you can come from abuse. You
and
can
I'm
come
married
from
now.
A bad past and still make a change. Everybody is capable of making a change. Do not live in your past and don't let your past control your future. That's where my story would come in. I'm sure people that knew me back 15 years ago are probably like, there's no way this dude's actually doing this right now.
Yeah.
There's no way. And that's me kind of separating myself from the past and just moving forward and, becoming a man of God and doing what I think is the right things. And I want to help other people. So I'm telling the story.
I want to help other people
Yeah.
too. And when it happened, I just remember my mom telling the girl to go upstairs and call her mother, and she never made me once feel like I did something wrong when I told her what had happened. She never made a big deal out of it. She didn't cry in front of me. She was very strong. She didn't crumble.
Yeah.
The only thing I wish is that my mother would have took her badge off and would have told me that she was also a warrior, because I think there's so many of us that have this story, and when you look at them and you start talking about specific things, it's like you have this connection with someone and you just know that they're also a warrior, but they don't want to say it. And that was my mother. And so to find that out after she was gone, it was like I wish she would have just shared that with me.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you shared it with us.
Yeah, I think we
Appreciate
can
it.
both say that we're really proud of you.
Yeah,
It takes a lot
for
to
sure.
to pull out a memory from arguably some of the darkest parts of your being and who you are, and I think it's a really
Yeah.
excellent reminder of, unfortunately, how dark the world can get, but
Yeah.
how light can still triumph and you can still overcome.
Yeah,
things
it's a
that
great.
would
I mean,
cripple.
it's a bad story, but it's a great story. It's a good redemption story. It's a good. The proof is in the pudding. Like, you can overcome these things. It's not easy. Look, I mean, she's literally tearing up about it, and this happened a long time ago.
And this is live right now. Like, I was prepared to tell this story, like, pre-recorded and put it on an Instagram story.
Live is
I
better.
wasn't prepared for live.
You
And
get
then I
that
was
raw
like,
emotion. It feels real. It is
right,
real.
it feels more raw.
There's no fabrication.
Yeah, there's no fabrication, and it's not, rehearsed. It feels more raw. It feels more,
One
genuine.
take, baby.
One take.
That's all you
Right.
get.
But
Friday Night
I think
Live.
there's so many other people out there that share this story, whether it be a friend that did this to them when they were younger, a family member, a stranger, maybe it was a pastor, maybe it was, who knows who it may be.
Yeah.
But we all just hide with this badge, and I almost feel like this badge is like it's under a trench coat. We hold on to it. Like, nobody can take
Yeah.
this badge from me. I'm strong because of it. I'm strong because I shared it, because there's other people out there
100%.
that feel so much pain from what somebody else has done to them, or what you've done in your lifetime. Because I have other stories of things I've done in my lifetime, that make us feel like, oh, somebody's going to look at me differently. If they choose to look at me differently, that's their choice. But
Yeah.
I'm not sharing this for the people that are looking at me differently. I'm sharing this for the people that need to hear it, it's okay to let it go. You're going to know when you find that person that you're supposed to share that story with, so they don't feel alone in their pain. And we're all just alone in our pain when we could be sharing stories. We could be empowering others. We could be changing the world one story at a time.
Yeah.
And we're not. There's only a select few that feel, comfortable and confident enough to, become motivational speakers or write books about their story, when really we all are the authors of our own story. He's really the
Yeah.
author of our entire story, right? But, we have the capability to really be an author, every single one of us, and let this story go,
Everybody has a story.
online and on the internet. Whereas, like, even just 20 years ago, we didn't have that opportunity to do so. And now
Yeah.
that I have this opportunity years later, where I wouldn't have, back in the 90s, and now my mom's gone.
On that dial up. You never
on that
watch this show.
dial-up. Now my mom's
Yeah.
gone, but I know that she's glad that I shared this story, because
100%.
it was something we literally never talked about after that day. Not even my dad knew. And I just actually recently shared this with my adopted parents, and it just felt like a weight was lifted off my shoulder, you
Yeah.
know?
For sure. I mean, when it comes to like these motivational speakers and stuff, like a lot of them, they'll talk behind the scenes and they'll say like, I'm anxious about even telling these stories, but I do it for the greater good. And I know it's going to help someone. So like, you just kind of have to get out of your comfort zone. 10 years ago, I would have never said, I'm going to sit here and talk on camera, and hopefully people listen to me and people will appreciate my story. I mean, when we first did our first podcast, I was nervous.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
And we've done one before, but it wasn't ours. Like, there's expectations, and like a lot of these, almost all these speakers that are held up on a pedestal, they all are humans at the end of the day. They all have similar stories to you. You just, if you want to tell them, that's great. If not, it's not good to hold it in. It's basically the message that I would say.
And here's the thing.
Talk to someone. You
in
don't have to
sharing-
do it live on Facebook. But
You don't have to, no. But in sharing, there's forgiveness. So it's like Justin's story. He's forgiving himself, like that he did this thing that he knew wasn't right, that he felt wrong about. He's forgiving himself for all the people that he dealt drugs to, that maybe it led to even worse. And that's something that his cross he had to bear and he had to face. And, I didn't share her name. She knows who she is. I forgive you, because obviously that was a learned behavior from somewhere. And this
Yeah,
is, she's
unfortunately.
also a warrior. And I can only imagine that from what had happened to me. But it's time for people to start ripping off your badges. It's not helping you.
Yeah.
It's not bringing you forgiveness. It's not bringing you mental clarity. It's not bringing you healing to hold on to that badge.
Yeah.
What will bring you healing is sharing. Even if it's just was like a close friend. It doesn't have to be publicly. It doesn't have to be here live, on the internet.
Yeah.
I
Share it.
just did this because it was spirit led and it was something I felt I wanted to do.
And if you don't want to share with anyone, like literally, I know not everyone's spiritual, but share with God.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just say it out loud. Like, even if you don't think you're talking to anyone, like say it out loud and it will feel a little bit better to get it off your shoulders, get that weight off of your chest, because it will sit there forever unless you actually like express it.
Right.
Because if not, you hold it in and then you show expressions through your everyday tasks, and people may think you're a dick, but they don't know why.
Right.
And that's
'Cause all
why
these-
until you get rid of that guilt and that shame,
Yeah.
you'll always have it on your back and you're always carrying it, and it can affect your day-to-day life.
Not even your day-to-day life, but your relationships, your
Yeah.
interpersonal relationships, your career, all these things change our identity and change us because we allow it to. But you have the power to let this change your identity in a good way and not a negative way. You have the power to let this change your identity and like make you new again, make you whole again. We're all broken people. And Justin and I, and if again, this is not something you believe, there's a higher power up there, or maybe it's just you believe in spirituality, but we believe that God has made us new.
Yeah.
And we are no longer broken, we are whole. And
I
that
mean,
is
with
the whole
all the
point
bad
of
shit
sharing
I
all this
did,
stuff.
I walk into church every Sunday and I don't start on fire.
Yeah.
I thought I would,
But I mean,
but
it
I'm
can- it
good,
can
I
make you-
guess.
all these things can make you feel insecure
Yeah.
and feel like people are judging you and people are looking at you, and change your perspective as if like people are looking at you. Oh, they must know something about me, or what would they think about me if they knew that I was this person? Well, you know what? Hopefully they gave you more respect, or they have more respect for you due to the fact that you're sharing something that was so hard for you to share that you didn't want to share. But I don't feel shame about it anymore. I mean, after the moment that I finally shared it with more than just my mother, it felt good. I definitely cried, and I was worried about what Justin would think about me. And I was worried what, I didn't want him to feel bad for me and give me charity, because that's the worst feeling for
But
somebody.
you want to
who's
share
been
with
through a lot of
someone you
trauma.
trust too, because like you don't want to put that into the wrong hands.
Absolutely.
Because like
Absolutely.
rumors can get spread, things can get spread. Make sure, like I said, maybe you just talk to yourself. As dumb as it sounds.
Yeah, you don't want it to get in
Say
the
it
wrong
out
hands
loud.
for sure. But like
Tell
I
people you
said,
trust.
in my story,
Yeah.
I had somebody that I loved and I trusted. But when the memory came back, it was almost to the point where I couldn't hold it in because
Mm.
it was so painful. It was like, oh my God, I wish I didn't remember this. Like, how the hell did my brain block this out for 20 or 19 years? But
Trauma.
it did. It's
Trauma,
like
trauma.
the brain's crazy way of trying to protect you. And finally, it was like, all right, there's a reason why my brain's no longer protecting it, because it's ready. I'm ready to shed it. I'm ready to let go of this
Yeah.
this skin, this identity that's making me feel insecure and less of a woman, and making me feel embarrassed and ashamed. Like I did something wrong. I didn't do anything wrong. Something was done to me that made me feel shame.
Yeah.
And like I said earlier in this, we're all wearing these badges. It's time to rip them off, and it's time to create a new identity, and for the better, for the good, become whole after we're broken.
Yeah. So while you listen to this, maybe think of something that you're guilty of or shameful of and try to work
Reflect on it.
You have to work on it. If you don't work on it, it'll never change. So like take the time, put some time into yourself, 10 minutes. Maybe make a list of all the things that you're actually ashamed of. Because we all got a guilty past of some sort. We've all done bad things. We're human. And there's bad things out there that are easily accessed
Oh yeah.
by this stupid little thing.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, shit. There's a lot of bad things you can do, but there's a lot of good things you can do. And I believe like we help others every day, and that is one of the best feelings in the world.
Absolutely.
Actually helping someone. And
Mhm.
I hope this helps someone as well. And the more that I help people, the better I feel about myself.
And that's what life is really all about. It's about being a servant to others. Not about me, and what can I get, and what can they give for me. It's about what can you give to others and being a servant to others. And again, our beliefs are, we are all children of God, and that how can we help our another brother, another sister? But it's just, again, for me, I've heard this story so many times now, and very traumatic stories being told to me, from clients, and I'm like, they need to know that I'm also a warrior. They need to know that I've gone through trauma other than my story of being adopted and all that. But I'm sure in the back of their heads, they wonder what happened to me during that time. And, was there's got to be a reason why she was taken. Besides, yes, there was drugs, but you always wonder if there's something more,
Yeah.
and now they know, like this is my story, and, you're not alone if this is something that's happened to you.
For sure.
And
I have a
that-
lot of clients that have been adopted and went through some traumatic things.
Yeah, and that you can also use your story for the good. You can also talk about the fact that you can forgive that person that's hurt you, who has abused you, because they don't own you. They
Yeah.
only own you if you let them. And you rip off that badge and it's gone. That part of them attached to you, it's gone. And it's small steps if you're not ready to take a big step in talking to someone, but maybe even just putting a pen to paper, because if you're someone like me where you held that in the back of your head for 19 years, and then you redig that up, you have to talk about it at that point. Otherwise, it starts to fester and starts to manifest in negative ways in your life.
Say
And that's
it out
something I did
loud.
not want to do, because I was on a path of healing. And this season for Justin and I is a season of healing and moving forward.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that with these stories that of us becoming new after being broken, this has changed you for the better.
Yeah. And share the stories with like I said, the people you trust. Maybe have like a weekly sharing of stories. Take the phones, throw them in a fucking bin, leave them away from the table, have actual, real, deep conversations with the people that you care about. And you're going to find out some traumatic things about them. But at the end of the day, your relationship will grow because you will probably have common ground on some of these things. And you'll get to truly know someone. Like, how many of the people that you talk to on the daily do you actually know? Probably not a lot. You don't know their past. You don't know what they're going through on the daily. You don't know what their home life is in or is like. Like, actually ask people how they're doing. Don't get the surface level. I'm great today.
Yeah.
No, are you really great today?
Yeah. And I think one thing that's important for me to wrap up on is if somebody does share this story with you, I think it's super important, because if this is not something that's happened to you, or you haven't gone through trauma in the way that you're hearing about on this podcast, if someone decides to share this with you because you're someone that they trusted, though I think the worst thing you could do when someone tells you this is try to treat them like a charity case, like, oh no, I'm so sorry you went through that. We don't want to be treated like charity. We want to be treated like, we are somebody that has something to tell, to say. And for me, that was the biggest worry, was like, I don't want people to be like, oh, I'm so sorry. I want them to be like, I'm just awed by your strength, and that's, I think, the perfect comment you can give someone if you can't think about any other thing to say when someone tells you something very traumatic, because sometimes it is hard to process. It's very hard to process. You also,
just like Ali did, like, thank them for sharing it with you. Like, they don't have to share it with you, right, but it's something they wanted to, and that's something they wanted to tell you. Like, it's freaking amazing you shared that with everyone. Thank you. That's great.
And if that's simple words right there, that will make them feel like they did something good. But remember that if you don't have any words, I'm in awe of your strength. Thank you for sharing. I feel honored that you trusted me enough to share this. I'm here for you.
Give them a hug.
Yeah. Hug. Sometimes even just a simple hug feels better. There's no words even necessarily needed.
Yeah. So all you suckers are guilty. I know that. Let me know your story. Type it in. Like, follow, and subscribe to all our goddamn.
Right. So this was definitely a more, teary-eyed type of podcast episode. But I think it's important to have one of those every now and then. Again, to just show people that we are just regular humans.
Yeah.
We're not superhumans. We all got problems. We all have things that we've been through, and that we hear you when you're telling us things. And just because we don't necessarily share back in that moment, that doesn't mean that we're not a warrior. Whether it be my story or something very similar to it, or something that you can actually, like whether you felt pain, trauma, that you can relate it to that story.
Your story matters.
Yes.
Even if you think it doesn't.
It does.
It could help someone in the long run.
Absolutely.
So tell your dang stories, people. You don't have to do it to the internet, but tell the people that you trust and you love.
Everyone's an author, and you're an author of your story. So tell it.
Boom.
All right.
Be
Bye,
the superhero
guys.
of your
Friday.
own movie.
Friday.
Like, follow, subscribe. Abs Fitness Filmhouse on YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
Abs Fitness
Instagram. Abs Fitness _ Brandon, Florida. He doesn't even remember. Facebook, Abs Fitness LLC. YouTube, that's Abs Fitness Filmhouse.
Oh, make sure you subscribe and apply to those little, what do they call it? Notifications. The bell. Hit the bell.
Yeah, hit the
dang bell, people, and follow my dang page, man. There's workouts on there. There's podcasts. There's everything on there. Yes. We'll see you next week.
See you next week, guys. Thanks.